Where to start? Well, we obviously have the tornadoes and damaging storms that have swept across the Midwest. 6 left dead, hundreds left slightly injured, more than 30 injured seriously. And debris has been found 116 miles away. Damaging winds have blasted Cleveland, Pittsburgh. We're going to be breaking some of that down today, obviously, but that pales in significance. We've always had natural disasters, and our prayers and thoughts go out to those. What is the big enchilada is what was my top story yesterday on the Sunday show, and is still our top story, and I'm tempted to open the phones up in the second hour for the military to call in, former military or current military, to give your take on this. But report, Israel, Saudi Arabia cooperating on possible attack on Iran and nuclear weapons transfers to Saudi Arabia. This is a big, big deal. And so we're going to be talking more about that. Also, U.S. war readiness in jeopardy as pilots flee, part of the ongoing purge. Michael Maloof is reporting on that at worldnetdaily.com. So we're going to be looking into that. The producers got a catch on the broadcast. I appreciate them doing that. He's under the weather, but he's going to come on the show because it's so important. James Tague, who was the only other person other than JFK and Governor Connally to be shot 50 years ago this Friday, he was basically threatened by the FBI. Then the information was kept out of the Warren Commission. He was finally able to testify later in the Warren Commission, but he was kept out of the first of it. Made big national headlines at the time. He obviously has the intel and knows what really happened, as anyone who was there and witnessing it would. He was right there, folks. Grassy knoll, whole 9 yards. He was just right across the street from it. Got hit by a bullet fragment in the face. There were just bullets flying all over the place. The limousine, the open-air limousine, the convertible limousine looked like a Swiss cheese block that had been attacked by rats. There were so many bullet holes in it. Of course, they stripped it out and refurbished it immediately as part of the cover-up. You can see it at the LBJ Presidential Library today. And the big news is everybody knows, at least 90+% know, the government killed Kennedy. Criminal elements did, but they're actually trying to ban not just free speech at Dealey Plaza, but in downtown Dallas. The mayor, who I guess is now God, like Kim Jong-un, says you're not allowed to hand out flyers, you're not allowed to have banners, you're not allowed to, and the courts are even saying, well, actually, you can't do that. So they've already had to back off some, but we're going there. Wednesday night, I'm going to be down there. They're already putting barricades up today. Thursday night and Friday, I'm going to be down there exercising my First Amendment. And it won't matter. I don't even need to go into the whole grassy knoll area where they're going to have 5,000 selected establishment guests. I'm going to be outside of it where all the media is at, pointing out the censorship. See, when they engage in censorship and manipulation, they win if you don't challenge it. It blows up in their face if you do challenge it. So we're going to be down there, and we've got a lot of interesting First Amendment surprises coming up. So definitely want to be part of that, folks. But my issue is James Tague shot. Imagine, you'd think 3 people were shot. JFK, Governor Connally, and James Tague. You would think somebody who got shot would be one of the 5,000. No, he's tried to get in. He's not allowed to because he doesn't believe the official story. Unbelievable litmus test. Unbelievable proof. He's popping in at the bottom of the hour. Then Dr. Christopher Busby has breaking news on nuclear atomic radiological contamination of the West Coast. This is breaking bombshell. Busby is going to be joining us via video Skype, dealing with some very serious news in scientific studies dealing with increased radiation on the West Coast. This is concrete stuff. Dr. Busby has been very conservative. He's a nuclear physicist, chemical physicist, and also an advisor to the European Union and British Parliament on low-level radiation and its aggregate effects. He's got major breaking news joining us coming up in the third hour today concerning 2 years after Fukushima, what's happening to the West Coast. Remember, those prevailing winds and the currents all come in northern Mexico, up the west coast of the United States, the southern west coast, up into the northern west coast, into Canada, and then all the way up into Alaska. And humans are designed to really take a lot and to put up with a lot. Look at how we hurt ourselves with alcohol, cigarettes, the things we do to our body with fast food. I mean, humans tend to not really worry about themselves. We tend to worry about our children, but not ourselves. Look at the cell phone radiation, the microwave radiation on record in so many studies. It dizzies the mind, literally in the thousands, going back 30 years, that cell phone radiation causes brain tumors. I mean, it's a fact, but we still use them because they're so convenient. Killing ourselves to live, I think, is the best way to put it. And I've talked to a high-level member of the establishment off record on a jet ride once in first class on American Airlines. And he just said point blank, he said, look, we use people's capacity to adapt against them. Whatever we do, the public will go along with it because they will adapt to it. Do you understand that? And I went, oh, I see. All adaptation isn't good. Like when the military says we're going to put you under pressure to make you adapt to be stronger, that's good adaptation by an individual, adapting and overcoming. But they actually get it to where we get accustomed to living under something tyrannical or something poisonous. It just becomes the new cultural norm. And he's like, now you've got it. And so I said, so you're just openly preying on people? And he said, no. We have found that the public are basically rat-like, and this is how they want to be treated, and that you're never going to change them or build them up. They want to be in squalor, so if that's what they want, they'll get it, and we're going to have corporate management over the entire culture and government because we know how to do it better than government. And I said, well, wait a minute, I'm all for free market and stuff, but big corporations just become government, and then there's no checks and balances, and then it's even more abusive, and then you guys consolidate all the wealth for yourselves. They actually got angry at that point. That's what I found with Rothkopf, the head of the Kissinger group at the time when I had him on and off air. And that's what I found with this other guy who was even more high level than Rothkopf, is that they literally, they're very charming, they're very smart, they're very devilish. They will sit there and they will try to sell you on how you don't get it and how you could be one of them, and how the mere fact that you're aware of all this stuff means you're a potential elitist, and that's how they get everybody to sell out. I can't tell you how many prominent people with top test scores or who are actors, even mid-level, or who are top academics. You all get approached. They all get approached and basically told, you could be senator, you could be president. And that doesn't really mean you could be senator, you could be president. That's literally just what they say to everybody. What it means is you can be a functionary, high level, in the power structure. And this has happened to thousands of people, tens of thousands of people have been approached basically just to see if you'll get in line. I mean, I remember the Democratic Party, when I was criticizing Bill Clinton off record, I was at the Capitol, the state Capitol, and I was given the card by a high-powered person in government. And they said, give me your number. And I had a card at the time. He goes, I'm going to have somebody call you about some news, and then patted me on the shoulder. And then I got this phone call. I'm just remembering this, the first time it ever happened. I've been on air about a year on Access Television. And I was basically told, stop being a Republican. Come join the Democrats right now. We'll run you for office. We can tell you've got potential. And, we're going to take really good care of you. We like you. We want to be your friend. I went on Access TV like 2 nights later and attacked Bill Clinton again, and would show clips of him off C-SPAN with the Communist Chinese meeting with him and stuff when that was out, and talked about Waco. And the guy literally, when I got home that night, because he had my home number then, I'd called on that and he'd written it down. And, he'd called me. That's right, because I'd given him my number. That was my home number. The point is that he calls back and goes, how dare you do that? How dare you? You keep doing that, we're not going to work with you. and folks, this was a high-level person that the extremely high-level Democrat had called me. I don't even know why I'm telling these stories. It's just, that's how the real world actually works, ladies and gentlemen. And it's very, very frustrating that the radiation levels went up in the milk, in the water, in the surface shrubs and vegetables. The FDA and EPA actually tested them. They both test. They found, was it 6 times the safe levels in the yellowfin tuna and the bluefin tuna, caught off San Diego and suppressed that news for a year. And then they had the FDA just raise the levels of what they say are acceptable, safe radiation. And I at least went and looked at the trade winds and where they come in over Texas and tried to go get some radiological metering from the University of Texas. And they only found slightly increased in Texas because most of the winds are going north of Texas from Japan. But boy, I tell you, folks, if you're on the West Coast, I mean, they've picked up high levels of radiation in Vermont in the milk after this stuff happened. And yeah, there's the headlines right there. Governments worldwide raise acceptable radiation levels based on politics. Washington blog at INFOWARS.com. It says, instead of protecting people, governments cover up by raising safe radiation levels based on politics, not science. And then let's scroll down. And then you can see all the links he's got to mainstream news and government announcements and TEPCO and over in Japan where they all admit it. And I always like Washington's blog because at the bottom, he'll show a bibliography where he got all of his sources. And then you can link right through to it in all those reports. But again, I've got all this breaking huge news, and I'm going to get to it right now. It's just, I want to say this to the establishment, though. You're breathing this radiation, too. You're eating the GMO, even though you try to avoid it. You know your kids aren't avoiding it. You know only the most disciplined people can avoid this stuff. And you're getting blowback from all this. So what it is people that join the establishment imagine that by joining the establishment, they have protected themselves from all of these problems. And that's actually what I found. Oh, that's another thing they always say. Oh, you'll protect your family by joining the establishment, and then you can work from the inside for good by compromising. And really, you don't ever get to affect any change working in the establishment from the research and the history I've looked at until things get really bad and folks figure out they're in deep trouble. Then things do start to change because the worst common denominator within the power structure tends to then be the leader of the pack. And that's what I'm trying to get at here. Now, separately from all of that, here is the top news. U.S. stocks back off psychological hurdles as builder confidence goes flat. Yeah, the economy is going into cardiac arrest. Obamacare, if it doesn't kill the economy, shutting down the power plants will. And then we've got this big story that's super ultra creepy up on InfoWars.com. TSA rolls out detention pods at airport terminals. And I actually told you about this about 4 years ago because it was in major magazines and things. I could just read what DHS was describing and see some of the new test facilities they were building. And it's these tunnels you go through where you just basically get snatched and disappeared for further, quote, screening. So you think, oh, it's going to wave me right through. It says that my background check has been done. I'm safe. But then you just basically then get cordoned off into jail cells if they want. And now they're putting in these jail cells even after you are trying to leave the airport now. When you've gotten off the plane, you go into these big steel doors that look like something out of a science fiction movie, and then it closes to decide if you're authorized to leave. And then the other door opens, and then they admit that's what it's for. Total prisoner training. And remember, this is for the al-Qaeda threat that the globalists openly have funded. I mean, go look at who set up Saudi Arabia. British intelligence, out of a group of Bedouin tribalists. Look at who runs this whole show. It's so frustrating, ladies and gentlemen. Al-Qaeda, the Wahhabists, are 100% made by the British Crown. in 1903. The sons and grandsons of the Bedouin leader are now in charge over there, and they've now got nuclear weapons and are threatening to nuke Iran. So that's the type of news we have. And then we've also got actor Lennox responds to claims that he trained Obama. We'll be right back.